Well, hey there, it's Jen.
And Elka, and welcome back to part 2 of our 3-day series, which is so important for you to stay and be part of, because today we are talking about how to choose your niche and ideal customer so you can start selling faster. If you have been part of our 3-part series so far, yesterday we had a fabulous discussion. If you haven't watched that yet, watch the replay about why people are not selling consistently. And today, and I'm going to just make sure I'm going to just say my script here. Welcome back. And I truly, even though I don't have to read this, I'm really glad that you're here. And so is Jen, because today Jen is here as well. So the two of us are here together as a team again. Even though power is still a little bit iffy today, it might be me that loses power. It's been happening all day, so just bear with us. Okay, if you joined us yesterday, you know we talked about why most sellers don't get consistent sales and how it's usually not about effort or design, but it's about doing things out of order. So today we're going to talk about one of the most important and most misunderstood decisions in print on demand. And that is choosing your niche and your ideal customer. And it sounds so boring. And it sounds so like, why do I need to do this? I just want to start selling. And this is the step that most people avoid just because of that. Like, I just kind of played it up a little bit, but they rush through and they completely skip it in some cases. And the weirdest thing is that it's also the step that changes everything. So I'll say it again. It's the step that changes everything. And therefore, if you have not had so much success in print on demand, and specifically this whole 3-part series is very focused on the Zazzle platform, but this is going to work in every time you're trying to sell something to somebody. You have to know who you're selling to and what they're willing to pay for, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you don't know that, then you're wasting your time. Like this can be any example. I like using examples of like big names like Coke or any sort of auto manufacturer. If they sit there and go like, okay, like let's say now Honda decides that they want to sell clothing. It's like, why? Because we know Honda as a car manufacturer, and it's the same with you. Like that, the only reason that you would want someone would sell or buy from you. I'm sorry, I'm tripping over my words. If you want someone to buy from you, they have to know what you're selling, and they have to know that. And you have to know who you're talking to. And then there has to be a marriage.
Mm-hmm. So, interesting. I just wanted to jump in. Like when you gave that example, my mind, like, of course, let's say Honda decides to sell clothing and they decide to sell clothing, whether that be jeans and like fashion items, or they would probably niche down and sell motorcycle jackets or something related to car items, right?
They also sell motorcycles. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But knowing your customer, right? Because all of a sudden, if Honda decided to sell fur coats or something like that.
Yeah, it wouldn't make any sense, right? Unless it tied back in to what people are expecting to purchase from you because they know of you. So, and then you are on this print on demand platform called Zazzle. And so therefore you have to understand what people are on Zazzle are actually coming to the platform for to buy, right? And so if you've ever said things like, I don't want to limit myself and I sell a little bit of everything, or I don't want to box myself in, this conversation is for you. And also any of the other things we just brought up, because listen, you go to the Zazzle platform or any other print on demand platform and you go like, I just want to make money. But that's not what you're trying to focus in on, right? It goes back to what we talked about in the first part of this series, is you have to know who you're serving in order to be able to allow that like transaction to happen. And if you just say, I want to serve everybody and I want to sell a little bit here, a little bit there to hedge my bets, and I don't want to box myself in so that I'm missing out. That's all lack mentality. And that lack mentality is going to get you a lack of money. Okay, so this is why we're going to talk about what you can do here to make that shift. And the first thing that we're going to talk about, and I'm going to switch the banner out so we are completely clear on what we're talking about, is why most sellers resist this step, which is focusing on your niche and your avatar. Okay, so let's do that. Do you want to take that this whole section and talk about it?
Sure, let's do it. So one of the biggest reasons sellers resist choosing a niche is fear, or, and I'm going to add a point to that, is that there's too many options and people either don't decide because they're scared to get into that niche, or there's so many things that they want to sell. And then also having that mentality, we've spoke about this before if you were with us last week, is that many people when they first started on Zazzle think that they need to have all of the things in order to sell all of the things and make more money, right? And have more than 1,000 products and just, blitz your store with everything so that you're catering to everyone. And that actually ends up turning against you. And it's not great because then you can't focus on anything and you have no idea who you're really selling to, right? And so whether it be fear-based or just option-based, where there's so many options that you wish to choose from, this is the reason why either you don't hone in on the niche and then figure out who your perfect customer is. And we need you to understand your perfect customer because based on their wants and needs, based on their budget, based on what they like and what they would be willing to purchase and like have that transaction and pay money for something, right? And so if you don't have that set in your store or have that as a vision for your brand or your store or your, or any of your designs, whether that be on Zazzle or print on demand in general, is that you are not allowing yourself to feel connected with that person, even though that maybe they don't really exist, but that type of person does, right? So fear of choosing the wrong one is fear, first of all, number one, and then fear of missing out. Like I said, it's either you're fearful of choosing just one niche and you're like, I don't know if I can fit in this niche. I don't know if I can compete X, Y, and Z, issue and complication that may be associated with it, or fear of missing out. So you choose all of them. And then sometimes that actually turns into paralysis as well, where you just have no idea on what to do because there's so many options. And then fear of limiting creativity was a big one because we as Zazzle designers or print on demand sellers, we like that aspect of being creative because we're creating designs. Maybe you're not as creative as other people on the platform, but there's still that sense of creativity because you enjoy making products and you enjoy designing. Okay. And so if you decide to say to yourself, that you don't want to choose a specific niche because it will limit your creative abilities, then unfortunately you're also not making a stand in that niche, right? And so the fearfulness comes to actually work against you. Okay. So on the surface, that fear makes sense. And it makes sense to me. I had that same fear when I first started out on Zazzle. I had no idea what the direction of my store should be. I started out posting pictures of like my grade high school artwork projects for sale on Zazzle. But then the next thing was that I tried to get into the t-shirt niche and then I wanted to do accessories and all the things, right? But I had really no focus and wasn't really understanding that the time and effort being put into making a product had to actually translate into something that somebody would want to buy, right? I just thought that if I had things out there for sale, then they would somehow magically get sold, right? So I relate to that. And I understand if those are certain fears that you have or feelings that you've felt before. So what you need to know is that most people don't realize not choosing a niche doesn't keep your options open. It actually makes your store harder to understand. And I know that if many of you here watching this live video today were with us last week, there were multiple people who brought that point up when we mentioned it, saying that their store has all the things and there's no focus, right? And so that works against you, unfortunately. And it takes a lot of work for you to get there, right? And I know that many of you have probably spent hours and hours and hours posting products for sale, thinking the more products you get out there, and the more random things you put out there in all the different niches, then you'll somehow touch base with somebody. But unfortunately, that doesn't always work out, okay? So when your store sells a little bit of everything, the platform doesn't know who your products are for, what the problem is that it needs to solve, or who to show them to. And I know that's more of an algorithm thing. And on Zazzle, titles and tags are very important to put you into the proper place in the marketplace. But truthfully, like if your store is all over the place, and you don't actually organize it or be specific about making sure that everything is cohesive, somebody could land on one of your products and want to buy a matching product to go with that one, or browse for other options, or have, matching accessories, all of the things that we teach with collections and organizing your store categories and having those products available in your store. If they just find this one product that's like a one-off thing, and then they can't find what else they're looking for, then they're probably going to go and find somebody else, a different designer or a different seller with a similar product, because your store is unorganized and they can't, get truthfully what they're like looking for or what they want, right? So when the platform is confused, or when your store is confusing, your products kind of stay invisible, especially if you don't title and tag them properly and they're not organized in the back end with collections and categories. Okay. And so that's more of an algorithm thing, but making sure that your products get put in the proper place in the marketplace is a big thing. Okay. And then the last thing is that lack of focus feels safe. And that's like an interesting statement there, but it is. It feels safe because you don't have to worry too much about anything, right? But in reality, it's one of the biggest reasons that sellers struggle on the platform, whether or not to sell or even get noticed. Because if you just have too many things, or you spread yourself too thin, then there's no direction or no focus. And then the thing is that you as a designer don't really even know what the next thing is to design, right? You're always just chasing that shiny object, or you're figuring out, oh gosh, when you go into the Zazzle platform and you see all of these things being promoted, and you're like, I don't have any X, Y, or Z. Like, I don't have any baby shower invitations. I need to do baby showers because they're promoting baby showers. Well, just because you don't have baby shower invitations doesn't mean that you're not going to sell. Does that actually work with your store aesthetic, your theme, your brand, who your perfect customer is? Are they in the market for looking for baby shower invitations, or are they more so in the market for looking for business cards and binders or planners and things like that? And so you really have to understand what are the product types and the designs, because it's you have to be very intentional, right? You can't just randomly make a binder and then think, okay, if some sort of business person is going to buy this, it has to be a well thought out design for a binder or a business card, because if they're not meeting the mark, then as well, having that product posted for sale doesn't make sense and will never sell, unfortunately. So that's where, this fear comes in, and why people decide maybe I don't need a niche, or you haven't even really thought about it, right? Because Zazzle is such an amazing platform that you can just log into and have fun, right? It doesn't cost you anything. You don't have to pay for ads. So you can just literally make as many products almost as you want. I think the cap off is 100,000 for each account. But we've had clients and students of ours who have made almost that amount of products and have had no direction, and have made either nothing or very, very little money, even though they have hundreds of thousands of products in their store.
Yeah. So thank you so much for some comments that have been happening. We want to really focus in on this point. So comment whether this resonated with you. And then while we're waiting for your answers, we want to just address some of the comments. So we have you back on. Daliha, I think I said it right, said a couple of things. First of all, it's such a hard concept, but so good and makes so much sense. And it's true, right? And then you said, she says, Jen, I think you told me on another live, but your niche can be a style, right? And the answer is yes. But even when you have a style as a niche, you still have to focus in on a certain avatar and sub niche almost, I guess, then, because you have to pick something, right? In order to be able to get better at understanding even what's available and what's needed to be given as the design or the product, so that people will buy that, right? You have to facilitate a need, and you have to know what that need is. You have to understand what the need, like when would someone open their wallets and not open their wallets, even though you're serving that need, but what is it that moves the needle to make it, oh yes, that's what I want, rather than just trying, because there's a lot of people that do, and they put up designs that do serve a need, so to speak, let's just say something even broad like cat lover or dog lover, and you just put a nice design on, or you take a photo of a dog, or the dog is people can put their dog up and it says dog lover. Would they buy that t-shirt, or would they buy that keychain or cell phone case. But yes or no, and that just depends on who your avatar is and what they're looking for. Or is it that they want a big shower curtain with their dog on it? Who knows, right? So you have to get into the head of the person that you're selling to, and it takes a little bit of practice. And obviously some things are more outliers, like a shower curtain for a dog, like have it like 6 feet tall and by 10 feet wide. Maybe some people would, but maybe mainstream people wouldn't. So you have to start getting more research done and understanding what that market is to see whether or not your chances are higher or lower, depending on what you offer. And then D. Witten says, one niche, one store. And I'm a little bit cautious about you agreeing with that. And it says, they also say, can always add more stores. And yeah, Jen and I, we initially had a lot of stores because like we had that same mentality. And then we realized we can't juggle all those stores and give each of them the same effort. And therefore, some stores didn't do as well as others. And this is what you're going to run into. And so we recommend actually doing one store with possibly one style aesthetic, but in multiple niches but you're just focusing on one niche to start with, okay? Because you have to start somewhere and get good at it so that you can then expand into other niches. That's the sort of the overall message that we want to give you today. All right. And then Dolores says, I think there's confusion as to what a niche is. And it's true. What is a niche? A niche can be a design aesthetic. It can be that you say, I'm only going to do home decor. Or you can say, I'm only doing retro. Or I'm only servicing, policemen or service industry people. You can also do, I'm only going to do politics, or I'm only going to do humor. All of those are niches. The question is do they align with the customer that comes to Zazzle? And then you realize, okay, the way Zazzle has their platform organized, it gives you a lot of clues as to where you can pick something to start getting better at as a niche, okay? And so when you go on the platform, you see, as I said, those departments: home decor, office, sports and games, and occasions, stationery, clothing, etc. So you can right away say, well, that could be my niche. But it's not that you're going to design only those types of products, but it's a starting point where you can use that as a funneling in. And then the second piece is, what am I offering in there? Well, then you have to research what that customer that's currently going to buy in, let's say, home decor, what are they buying? Is it all patterns, or is it colors specifically that they're after? Because you're doing research on anywhere in home decor, like home decor magazines or any sort of DIY home websites or YouTube channel, and you see that, certain colorways are trending for designing in 2026 as to how your home should look. Then you're getting that information and you're marrying it up with what does Zazzle sell in home decor? Well, they sell curtains, they sell bedspreads, they sell wallpaper, they sell tiles. And then you go like, okay, well, I can now, that's a niche. I can focus in on that, and I have some research as to what it is that I need to put on that product as a design so that I can focus in on the person who's interested in redesigning or updating their home in 2026, right? So that's the start. And that's where you can go with some of these narrowing in pieces. But you have to get enough information, and you have to know, can I facilitate this on Zazzle? And also, will Zazzle customers who come to Zazzle just in general, will they be searching for that? And there are a lot of different ways that you can get your products to be seen other than just on the Zazzle marketplace. And that's what we teach in our Profit by Design Academy. And one of the things that we'll show you in our Sold Bootcamp, which we're going to do next week if you're interested. So we'll put the link in the chat at some point. But that's the idea, right? You have to focus in. Remember, even in our last series, we said focus in to create more breadth and get more chances of selling, even though you're focusing in, because then you can finally understand what's needed to the level that will actually create something that will sell. Okay. And I think everyone's saying, that makes sense. I was wondering how that worked. Okay, awesome. Okay. But no one said anything about fear of missing out and lack of, which I'm interested in, because before we move on to the next topic, we want to really help you understand. So most of you here, and we don't have a lot of people on today, so you have a lot of chance to just ask questions and chat. Please talk us through here if you're still stuck on missing out and trying to do everything for everyone because you don't think you're going to be able to make sales in the one area you do focus in on. Because before we move on, we want to make sure that everyone's on board and we're all agreed that we're going to focus on one thing, do it right, start getting some sales, and then rinse and repeat, right? Okay, everybody's, and Dolores says, I do have a fear of missing out. And I see that in your store, because when I did your store review, I saw you go here and here and here and here. You're all of a sudden doing this and you're doing that. And because of that, you're like, ask yourself, if you were to bake a cake, and you go, or even like stand in your kitchen, okay, and you go like, I'm going to bake a cake, I'm going to put in a roast, I'm going to also wash the dishes, I'm going to reorganize my cupboards, and I'm going to learn a new recipe on how to make chocolates. Okay, like if you do all that at once, you're never going to get anywhere anytime soon, right? It's all just, you're going to be stuck. You're going to be sitting in the middle of the kitchen crying because you just don't know where to start. You have no idea what you should start on first. And if you try to start each thing, nothing's going to get done. You're going to give up before you even try, right? And so that is the same thing with the Zazzle marketplace. If you have a store where you've just tried this and this and this, and you've never dove in deep into what I need, how do I serve this customer, is this design going to be that great? And like Dolores, even you love bold colors, but sometimes when you design for a certain person and you're trying to sell that product, it's not going to sell. Like I can be really confident to say, I look at something and go, that's not going to sell. And that's really rude, but it's also the truth, because we know that that product hasn't been researched enough, because I and Jen both have so much research intelligence, because we've been on the Zazzle platform for almost 19 years, that we can tell, because we keep track of all of these avatars and niches. And even though we don't, like, we now can focus on multiple niches because we're doing research constantly all the time, and it's built up over time to know what's the latest trend. How do these people want this to be in order for them to buy it, etc. And that is something that people just can't have when they first start out. And that's why you sign on for a mentor or a coach, because they're the ones that have the intel, the wisdom that's going to give you that insight, so that then you can add that to your memory bank and go like, ooh, that's right, I remember Elka saying that, or Jen saying that. And then all of a sudden you do something and it works, and then it becomes your insight. And so you start to create that wisdom, and you go like, I actually know this niche better than I thought I did. And that's one of the reasons why the fact that Dolores bought a farm and she's doing like country core stuff, that makes sense. That's why we funneled you into that area, because you're living that experience. You get to understand that avatar. And so therefore you should be able to be more successful in that avatar and serve that person better than, let's say, you're now going to go into, Bridgerton type wedding invitations or something like that, which is so far off from that. Okay. And what is an avatar? Good. I'm glad that you asked, because that's our next topic. Okay. So, and actually let's go a little bit further here. So we want to do a little bit what a niche actually means on Zazzle. So, but we will get to the ideal customer mistake as the third point. So don't leave. Okay. We have to keep you on here. Okay. So let's move into this, and I'll do this one and then Jen can do the next one. So let's clear something up, because it's true. Whatever discussion we've had here with people online, thank you so much for your comments. It's not that clear as to what an avatar is. A niche is. So a niche does not mean you can only ever design one thing. It also doesn't mean that you're locked in forever, and it doesn't mean you lose creativity. A niche is simply that it answers one question clearly: who is this product for? Okay. And like now, if I say that, and we've already discussed it a little bit more, is that, like, do you feel more confident that you can now say, okay, I can understand that if I just keep focusing on this one customer and they want this one need, I can actually kind of conceptualize what a niche is, because I'm focusing, I'm targeted, and I'm not just trying to then do the second product that I make for something completely different. I'm going to keep working on helping that customer with all the different bits and pieces that they might want for this. And even if they want something else another time, I'm going to focus on that customer still and make that, like, broaden my options for them to choose from. Okay, who's got that? I need to see the comments. Come on, type. Okay. Beautifully put, says Dolores. Perfect. Okay. And I have a little bit more to say on that. So when you answer that question consistently, your product ideas get easier, right? Instead of you just kind of going like, oh, I better try this, or I better try this, and I just don't have no clue what I'm doing. But instead you go like, well, they wanted the dog shower curtain, which is kind of crazy, but I'll do it. And then if that means that I could do a bath mat, that means I could do, what else do they have in the bathroom that I could use? Beach towels. I could do beach towels. And so all of a sudden you realize I'm serving this customer, as wildly crazy as this niche is, but I can put that stuff out there. Okay. And then it also helps really get people to see your listings, because it makes your titles and tags make more sense, right? Now you know exactly. Dog photo, pet lover, shower, curtain, finished, done. Okay, easy. Whereas before you go like, well, I just made this sticker that kind of has a geometric design on it because I found it on, like, for free on some sort of website, and I just want to see if that starts to sell. And you go like, I have no clue who it's going to buy, what it's for, or anything, and then you don't know how to label it, right? Okay. And it also, your store becomes easier for buyers and the platform to understand. And I know that Jen said that it's an algorithm thing, but it's not just an algorithm thing. It is the algorithm thing, because the algorithm shows your products. And if it breaks the algorithm, where it goes like, I can't figure this store out, then the algorithm will not showcase your products. Okay. But if it says, if you tick all these boxes and say, this is all for pet lovers that love dogs, then every time there's an algorithm where the customer is asking pet lover dog photo, then your product will get pushed that way. Okay. And if you have multiple products and then they even get views and they get sales, then those products will get pushed towards that customer much easier and quicker, because the algorithm got a hit. And so therefore it's going to showcase your products. All right. That's really, really important. So who understands that? I want to see some comments. The best Nina says the best thing could be that you choose a niche where you are the avatar from. Exactly. That's a really great place to start. And that's actually where we teach a lot of our clients to start. As long as you have some sort of interest and you know that people go to the Zazzle platform for that interest, then you're already a match. Okay. And everyone says yes. Good. Great. Okay. So to finish this little piece off here, which is really important, everyone's going to remember, a focused store doesn't limit growth. It accelerates it. So say it again. A focused store doesn't limit growth. It accelerates it. Yes. Is everyone yes? Yes. Please say yes in the chat. Yes, yes, yes. So we're all going to focus, and it's not going to limit us. Okay, awesome. All right, the next point, and I'll put the banner up for you, Jen.
Okay. All right. The next one here is the ideal customer mistake, which means that another mistake we see all the time is that sellers are designing for themselves. And I know I personally did this. I think Elka did at one point. We have many clients who have done this because, first of all, they like what they're designing, like their own personality and their own wants and needs go into their products. And we've had some people say, well, I would buy it, or I'm my perfect customer, or I'm my avatar. And if your likes and wants and needs are very niched down, and or that they are not well researched, and it's just because you specifically like that, then unfortunately, there might be another person just like you, but you are all your own unique individualities. And so if you're designing for yourself, unfortunately, yourself or your family members or friends are not going to pay your income over the next multiple years, right? And so you want to shy away from remove yourself, remove your ego from it, remove your own wants and needs from designing. And of course, we want you to enjoy designing and have fun doing it, but have a business mindset aspect to it where you are thinking about designing for a specific type of person, right? And somebody who is looking for and searching for these things based on your research that you've done for your avatar or your perfect customer, okay? Because these people who are designing for themselves think, I like this, I would buy this, this feels like a lot of fun, or my family members would buy it, right? And you're not designing for yourself or your family members. And although this sounds like maybe it's the wrong thing, it's not wrong, but it's not like, for selling happens when you design for the buyer and not for yourself, okay? I think I've kind of made that point clear. But it's funny because we have had so many people in our community and come into our courses and say, well, I was making this sort of like this and designing this stuff because I like it. And I think a lot of people's initial reaction is to go that way, because if you like it and you understand it and it's like either a hobby of yours, or if it's something that you like in terms of a color scheme or a pattern or even product type, it feels comfortable, right? Because you're like, well, I like it, so I know what I'm doing. So for me, it makes sense and it's easy, right? But that's not the way that we want you to look at it. You have to look at it from a customer's perspective and saying, okay, if I make this t-shirt and it costs $25 to the customer, why and how are they going to be willing to pay for that $25 t-shirt based on the design that I'm selling? Does it make sense for them? And do they want that design? Or is it better to actually make something different? And I kind of gave the business example before, but I'll go back to that one and say, is it actually better for your perfect customer to be looking at business cards and knowing exactly what they want on the business card and the specifics and the design theme, and or having all the social media icons, like understanding what is supposed to go on that product for that transaction to happen, okay? Because when you understand your ideal customer, what they care about, what they're shopping for, and what problem they're trying to solve, or it might not even be a problem, but like, I'm hosting a birthday party. I need balloons and I need napkins. That's not a problem, but it is the problem that we're speaking of. They're searching for the solution, right? And so if you aren't thinking about what the problem is and how you can help them, or what they're shopping for, or even their budget, right? Then unfortunately, it's never going to work for you. And it's just going to be a mishmash of all these products in your store that you like, but nobody else does. Or a handful, small selection of people would like and would potentially buy, okay? So you need to have all of these things working cohesively with each other. So what you have to understand your ideal customer, what they care about, what they're looking for, what they're shopping for, their budget, and also the problem that they're trying to solve. And once you think about all those things together, intertwined, your designs become more intentional. And we use that word all the time, pretty much on a daily basis, is making sure that you know what an intentional design is, or creating with intention. Because when you do that, when you create with intention, it converts better than generic ones. Okay. And this is where sellers often have a light bulb moment and they realize they don't need more ideas. They need more of a clearer direction. Okay. And then also also a light bulb moment switching from, I'm the designer, I know what I like, I'm creating for somebody like me, versus I'm creating and designing and posting products for sale based on the research that I've done and this story, we call it that when we do our workshops, which we're going to be talking about in a minute afterwards. But we help you work out this paragraph or this even, storyline of who this person is and what they like and what they don't like and how much money they make and all these things. And once you have that clear image of who this person is and even give them a name, even though maybe they're not real, this is fictional, then it really becomes real for you as a seller. And that way you have more direction on who you're selling to and how you can create those designs with intention.
Yeah, and to add on to that point, because someone said earlier, so I want to qualify, they said that you should create products for the niche that are most like aligned with who you are, because you know what that niche is all about, because you're in that niche. But then what has to happen here is you have to be aware of what that niche has as a problem to solve, right? Because there's certain things where you might like something just because you're in that niche as well, but you are but when someone actually pays for something, it's because you're solving a problem for them, right? So if you are in a niche, let's say something like where, like, even like, let's hear some niche people, like let's get you guys, so we don't just make up fake examples, but like if you're currently in like a person that's interested in some sort of niche and you go like, I just wish they had this because it would be so much fun, or it wouldn't drive me mad all the time, and so on, so that you could literally understand what problem it is that you're going to solve for that person, because that customer that you are right now that wishes this problem was solved is actually out there. It's not just you that has that same issue, right? And because of that, that's when you realize you've got a good seller, not just because it's nice to have or you like the design, but if it solves a problem, then you're getting closer to getting your products that are going to be good sellers. And then Nina says, if you're familiar with a niche because you live in it yourself, you can implement very well what others in the niche would like to have, which they can't get everywhere. Exactly. It's the which they can't get everywhere that is the problem, right? So now you know what you can offer them, which is really awesome. So thank you so much for clarifying that. Okay, do you want me to go to step 4, or do you still have some more stuff to say about step 5 or step 3?
Nope.
Okay, so here, next one is, what happens when this is done right? And we kind of touched on that already. So when a niche and a customer, and whoever didn't catch that, avatar is a fancy word for customer, but ideal customer, which means that you're kind of creating a fictionary character that's truly your ideal customer. They have all the traits of the actual person that's going to buy everything from you. And that is what's called an avatar, or some people call it an ICA, which is an ideal customer avatar. They're all just fancy words for the best customer that you could possibly get. Okay. So when the niche and the customer clarity are in place, a few things happen almost immediately. You stop second guessing every time you upload something. You understand why certain products perform better than others. You also can actually learn from the data that so that you're not feeling confused by it, right? Instead, you're literally getting views and sales data, so you can start down your journey of leveraging those products and designs, because you now have results to work from, instead of it just being crickets and you go like, I have no clue what's going on. And most importantly, you stop feeling like you're just throwing spaghetti against the wall and hoping that it sticks. Okay. And who's done that before? And if your store is a big mishmash of things, please let me know in the chat a yes. Have you been throwing spaghetti against the wall to hope that it sticks? It's one of our sayings that we used a long time ago. Everyone else is saying it. It makes a lot of sense, because when you throw spaghetti against the wall and it sticks, then you know it's done, which means that you have a good product. But if it keeps falling off, it means you have to put it back in and cook some more. And unfortunately, that's the same with your products. If they don't stick, you have to make more products. Do you want to make more products, or do you just want to have a certain number of products that you put a lot of time and effort into, make sales so that you can move on? Okay. Did that for the first year, said Dee Witten. Nina says, yes, and that's why I have 4 stores now, LOL. Okay, well, hopefully you're not doing like overwhelm with your 4 stores, but this is awesome. Okay, and so this is when momentum starts to build. And this step is also where most sellers get stuck, right? So we talk about it, you've probably heard it a million times, and you go like, that all makes sense, it's all perfectly fine, but what the heck am I supposed to do with this? How do I implement this in my Zazzle store? And it's not because you can't do that. It's not that you're not capable, but it's because it's hard to see clearly when you're inside your own business. Okay, when we come to a store and we see it for the first time, and people go like, "Can you just check my store out to see whether or not I'm doing the right thing?" Then when we see it and we go like, "Okay, can you just tell me a little bit more about your interests and what your passion is, and also are you good at designing, or do you have to buy all your designs and all that stuff?" So we're doing our research before we answer, because everybody's store is different, and something that can come out of that marrying of your skill sets, your abilities, your interests, and your history, like we've been talking about, where avatars or ideal customers are great to give as an image of who we can sell to. But if you are familiar with a niche and that's where you want to focus in initially, then you are in a way your ideal customer, as long as you're solving a problem. It's not that you just put up stuff because you like it. Okay, that can happen, but it's better if you solve a problem. And so when sellers are guided through this process, they avoid months and sometimes years of confusion. And I did see that in the chat, that there were a couple of people that started out that way years ago. And so who doesn't want to spend years doing that? Write it in the chat. Say, no, no, I'm not spending years. And look at this. The sun is coming out, which is awesome. It's been a terrible 2 days of stormy weather here in Nova Scotia. And so now the sun is shining, which is lovely. So I have sunshine on my face. Okay, I'm waiting for the nose. Okay, D. Witten, no, we don't. Excellent. Elena says, change from theory to reality to understand really what you have to do is the hardest thing. Yes, exactly. And so what if we did this together? What if we worked on this together, so that you had us as sounding boards, we as giving you some feedback, and then you could literally, by the end of next week, have, not this week, next week, because we're doing this bootcamp next week, then you can have a clearer picture of what your ideal customer is, what your ideal niche is that you should be focusing on, who would be interested in that. And Dolores, don't say yes because you're already in our programs. Elena, you've already done the Soul Bootcamp. But everyone else who has never done a Soul Bootcamp with us, please say yes in the chat, because this is going to really help narrow things down for you, or eliminate things that you've been trying really hard to do that just aren't going to get you anywhere. Okay, and so I'm going to finish off here with my little part, and then Jen can do the rest. Unless we have some questions that you want to get answered, please put them in the chat. So this is one of the key areas that we work through in a very intentional way when we help sellers build foundations that actually support growth. And we'll be sharing more about that next week if you're interested. Okay, so that's the Soul Bootcamp. Hint, hint. And I have the URL here, and if you want to, I can also put the link in the chat. Or do you want to put the link in the chat?
I'll put the link in, yeah.
Okay. And the reason that we're telling you this is because we've just spent an hour with you, and we've told you exactly what needs to be done, and probably you're still confused. And it's because we want to take, and as Elena said, theory and turn it into practical use. Okay. And the best way we can do that is to spend time together, us look at your store and look at your products, hear more about you, learn about you, what you want as your dream goals, etc., so that we get to know who you are, and actually give you some really good pointers to send you on your way for sure. Okay. And so that's exactly what we want to do. And we are, because we're so hands-on and we're coaching people, we want to make sure that we don't over enroll this little boot camp, because it's only $27. And so it's really a lot of value for the amount of money, because we're going to be spending, Jen's put up the schedule, which is really nice. So we are going to open a Facebook group that you can be part of for the week. Then you are going to get a welcome introduction, so you know exactly what's happening. Then we're going to do 3 trainings specifically about all of these things that we talked about in the last 2 days. And then you get homework, and then the homework gets reviewed, and we give you feedback on that homework. And then you have time in the Facebook group to ask questions, and then our team is there to support you, and we're here to support you. We answer questions in the Facebook group, and then we end the week with a masterclass, which is a bonus to send you on your way after you've already done a whole bunch of things, which is defining your niche, which we were talking about here. So you're going to have a niche that you're going to focus on. You're going to know what your ideal customer is that you're going to target. You're going to understand how to properly create a product for that customer in that niche. Okay. And then what you need to make it an intentional product and how to label it, what the kind of design, all that. And then you're going to be able to also figure out how you can amplify that listing that you're going to make, because you're going to post a product for sale, and you're going to also get you started on how to really effectively use the biggest platform that's worked the best for us, and get you set up on that, and also how to post your product there to get listings seen and drive traffic back to your Zazzle store. So who would like that? Okay. And what about people who have a Facebook ban? Well, unfortunately, then you can't be part of it. And we need to be on Facebook to do this. Yeah. Sign on with someone else's account, with your daughter's account or someone else. We've had people do that. We can't help you very much. This is a very interactive place to do this. Like on YouTube, we can't grab links and we can't do it on YouTube. We have to do it in Facebook. So unfortunately. Let me just see what else is there. Any other comments? No. And do you want to finish it off, Jen, by saying the last part? Elle has some questions. Is sold for beginners, or is it okay for someone who used to sell on Zazzle but sales are way down? Absolutely. That's the first place where we would like you to start. And it also gives you a taste of how we do our coaching. And if you like that, then we would offer you to come into our coaching program, or like our Profit by Design Academy. So with our 1-month coaching option. Yeah, that would be awesome if you wanted to go in to do that. Or if you want to go in right away to because we do have open enrollment right now for the Profit by Design Academy, because we're going to do a whole month of coaching in February, starting on the 9th. And if that's something you want, then we will be covering all that in there as well. But obviously way, way more in our big program. Yeah. Okay. All right. So you are all set. We've just spent another almost hour with you. I love that everyone had such great questions, and you're really understanding how something that sounds so simple that most people skip over actually is going to make the biggest difference, so that you can fully understand how to run your business so that it starts to make more successful, gives you more successful results, rather than just like, I don't know what's going on because nothing's happening. Yes. Mm-hmm. And if we wait to enroll in the PDA after sold, will we miss anything? No, you will not. You don't have to be part of the Sold Bootcamp. But it's kind of fun, because in the Sold Bootcamp, well, it's something we don't talk about here too much, but in the Sold Bootcamp, once you sign up, there is an option to do a VIP call with us. So it's another 30 minutes afterwards in order to get more information about the session that we just did in mm-hmm. each of the 3 trainings. And during that time, we can also give you more detailed insights if you want already. And so if you want to do that and already do that next week, then before we get into the February 9th start date, when we start doing coaching with that niche avatar session, you want to basically almost like 2-3 weeks in before that would maybe be an option for you. And it's only $27. You can come in and do that and do the Profit by Design. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Fabulous. Okay, thank you so much. And we will see you tomorrow for the last part. And do you want to just send us out? Because it actually says tomorrow, I'll do it. Tomorrow we're going to talk about what happens after this decision is made, specifically how to create products that actually get seen and bought, not just uploaded. So if you've ever felt like your designs are good, but no one is seeing them, tomorrow's session is for you. Okay, so just make sure that you understand that we're here for another day, and tomorrow that's going to be our topic. So for now, we want to want you to think about this. Are you building for everyone or someone specific? And that answer alone explains a lot. And we want to thank you so much for participating. I see a lot of people on every single day. Come back one more time tomorrow because we're not done yet.
See you all tomorrow. Bye.